know for a fact it did.
Do you have any evidence or reason to believe that what these parents said on that video was inaccurate? Do you have any evidence to that effect?
I do not have any evidence to state that what they're saying is inaccurate, but I also believe that that a video might be playing. It doesn't also exclude in my mind the fact that they could be arguing about any other number of things that those kids learn in school. And perhaps parents disagree with a lot of the curriculum. So that is an issue that is taken to the school board, as they did, and resulted in a decision that it had resulted in. And therefore the responsibility falls back on them. So do you then open the door for all these parents that disagree with things in the schools to, I mean, is this an opportunity for them? This is an opportunity for them. They took the opportunity to the courts and tried to rectify it in their way. And it didn't fall on their side. But again, they get to have their beliefs. So should they impose those beliefs on others when it comes to legal matters? Well, not in my eyes. When it comes to talking to their children, perhaps their situation could have been really summed up and wrapped up in a conversation with their children saying, hey, you know what? You learn that in school, but we don't necessarily believe that in our home, or we don't necessarily agree with that. What then goes to some disapproval towards gay people.
And the official ballot language indicated that the issue of same-sex marriage should be for parents to discuss with their children according to their own values and beliefs. And you testified that you agreed with that.
In addition to that.
And all I'm asking is whether you agreed with that. That's the only thing that I'm asking you.
Agreed with what, sir?
Whether same-sex marriage is an issue for parents to discuss with their children according to their own values and beliefs. You agreed with that concept, do you not?
The concept that parents should be able to discuss that with their children?
The one that I just read to you.
That's what I'm saying. Clarifying it for me. I didn't write this language, so yes, for me that means it's in conjunction with societal things. If they're watching TV, I mean, there's a lot of other influences. So does a parent have a responsibility, and is it their right? Absolutely. Does that prohibit people from seeing or learning about other real truths in their lives? No. So if they had an outside source, what if their child had gone to a movie and there had happened to be a gay character who was married? And would he ask the same question? Perhaps. Is it the parent's responsibility to have that discussion?
I want to go back to the first question I asked you, that it's the parents' primary responsibility to raise their kids, and you agree with that?
Correct.
Okay, and your objection to the Protect Our Children theme was one which you thought was misleading, that there was nothing that these kids needed to be protected against. Isn't that a fact?
Once again, my view...
I'm asking you a yes or no question. I mean, did you think that these kids did not need to be protected? Is that what you thought?
Let's just do it one question at a time, okay?
Excuse me.
Okay.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Is it your opinion that there was nothing that kids needed to be protected against?
Objection, Your Honor.
It was my opinion.
Objection. Perhaps you can rephrase that, Mr. Rahm. That's just a little far afield.
I'm sorry. You testified that you had a problem with the part of what's in evidence as plaintiff's exhibit number 1 that says that we need to protect our children. You testified to that today, correct?
I did.
Okay. And the fact is, you don't think that kids need to be protected from exposure to same-sex marriages, relationships, correct?
My opinion, same-sex relationships are not something to be protected from.
There's nothing wrong with it in your opinion, correct?
Same-sex relationships?
Yes.
Nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with it at all. But the fact is that what the Yes on 8 campaign was pointing at is that the kids would be taught about same-sex relationships in 1st and 2nd grade. Isn't that a fact? That's what they were referring to?
I don't know that for a fact in 1st and 2nd grade.
Well, do you recall when we took your deposition, right?
Yes.
Well, that was December 10th, 2009.
Correct.
I would like you to refer to page 63 of the deposition transcript. Your Honor, do you have a copy?
I believe the clerk is retrieving a copy now. Very well. What page, Mr. Raum?
That's page 63, Your Honor.
Very well. Does the witness have a copy of his deposition?
I do. Boy, it's on the screen here.
Okay.
Reading from your deposition that's dated December 10th, 2009, starting at line 18, it says, question, okay, when you talk about the points regarding the schools, are you referring to the assertion that kids would be taught about same-sex marriage in the schools? Answer, it was a multifold. It was about the kids' textbooks being written to exclude same-sex marriage. Excuse me, textbooks being written to include same-sex marriage.
I believe rewritten.
Rewritten. I'll start again. Answer, it was multifold. It was about the kids' textbooks being rewritten to include same-sex marriage. Part of the campaign, from what I remember, also for the campaigning that was resolved around kids being taken to a lesbian wedding at a school outing and how that would be acceptable. And potentially there would be school outings to gay marriages and so on and so forth. Question, and it was your position that that was a misrepresentation. That would not happen and could not happen. Answer, from my understanding from following news stories and trying to be as educated as possible, from my understanding, that was absolutely not the case, or was not going to be the case, that there wasn't going to be an immediate reprinting of textbooks or permission slips to go to gay marriage. Were you asked those questions, and did you give those answers?
I did.
I'd like to refer to Plaintiff's Exhibit 15, and I would move it into evidence if there is no objection.
Do you have a copy?
Page. Hold on. This is exhibit what, Mr. Raum?
This is Plaintiff's Exhibit number 15.
15, all right. PX 15.
Campaign video?
Yes.
One from the official campaign?
Yes.
No objection, Your Honor.
Very well. You're seeking to admit 15, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Very well. 15 will be admitted.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Very well. Direct, Mr. Bowes.
Yes, please, Your Honor. Now, as you understood it, was there anything in Proposition 8 about what was going to be taught in schools?
No.
Was there anything in Proposition 8 that talked about whether kids would be taught about sex in second grade as opposed to sixth grade or eighth grade?
To my understanding, not at all.
No more questions, Your Honor.
Very well. Then, Mr. Katami, you may step down, sir. Now, you have to be on call for at least 48 hours for possible questions with respect to Exhibit 401. But with that, you may step down, sir.
The plaintiffs would call Kristen Perry.
Kristen Perry, called as a witness for the plaintiff herein, having been first duly sworn, was examined and testified as follows.
I do.
State your name.
Kristen Matthews Perry.
Spell your first name and your last name, please.
Kristinperry.
Thank you.
Ms. Perry, are you a plaintiff in this case?
Yes, I am.
Would you tell us briefly about your background, where you were born, just a brief summary of your age, your educational background, just a brief summary, please.
I was born in Illinois, but my parents moved here with me when I was 2 years old. So I've lived in California since I was 2 years old, and I'm 45 years old now. I've grown up, I grew up in Bakersfield, California. I attended grammar school, middle school, and high school there. And then I moved away to go to college at UC Santa Cruz. And from there I went to San Francisco State to get my master's degree in social work, and I've worked in the Bay Area ever since.
Describe, without, you don't have to identify the name of your employer, but you work for a government agency. I would like you to describe the work that you do, your profession.
My entire career, I've worked in the field of child protection, child development, family support. I started out as a child abuse investigator in a Bay Area county. And from there, I moved into prevention services for families that were at risk. I became a supervisor and a program manager, and then later on, I became the executive director of a county agency that supported at-risk children 0 to 5.
So
And at this time, I'm the executive director of a statewide agency that provides services and support with families with children from 0 to 5.
So how long have you professionally been engaged in the occupation of working with children?
For almost 25 years.
On behalf of government agencies of the state of California, did I hear correctly?
I've spent my entire career working for the government.
What is your relationship with the plaintiff Sandra Steer?
Sandy's the woman I love, and we live together in Berkeley.
And what is the composition of your family? Is it just the two of you?
No. No, Sandy and I live together in Berkeley with our children. We have a blended family. We are both brought 2 sons into our relationship, and Sandy's children are both college age, and my children are both high school age.
When did you meet Miss Steer?
Sandy and I met, I think, in 1996 when we were both working at the same place.
And describe how that relationship, again, in general terms, how did that relationship grow and what did it grow into?
Well, I remember the first time I met Sandy thinking that she was maybe the sparkliest person that I ever met, and I wanted to be her friend, and we were friends for a few years. And our friendship became more and more, and it became deeper and deeper over time. And then after a few years, I began to feel that I might be falling in love with her.
And did it work out that way?
It did work out that way. I did fall in love with her, I did.
And how did she feel about you?
She told me that she loved me too.
We will be asking her to verify that.
Okay.
How would you describe your sexual orientation?
I'm a lesbian.
And tell me what that means in your own words. What does it mean to be a lesbian?
Well, for me, what that means is I have always felt a strong attraction and interest in women and formed really close relationships with women. And I've only ever fallen in love with women. And the happiest I feel is in my relationship with Sandy, because I'm in love with her.
Do you feel that that's something that could change, that you could have, could you have been in the past interested in that same kind of bonding with men, or do you feel that it would be, I know this is somewhat compound, or do you feel that that could turn into, that could develop in that way in the future?
Let's see, which question would you like her to answer?
Do you feel that in the past you could have developed that same kind of bond with a man?
I was unable to do that. As I said, I grew up in Bakersfield, California, and it was the 70s and the 80s, and all of my friends, as we were getting older and older, were beginning to date and becoming more and more interested in boys, and I recognized that that was something that would have been the best thing for me to do if I could. And I did date a few boys because it would make life easier, you know, and then I would have a date to go to the prom to, or I could go to a party to. But as I got a little bit older, it became clear to me that I didn't feel the same way that my friends felt about boys, and there was something different about me.
Do you feel that you were born with those feelings, with that kind of sexual orientation?
Yes, I do.
Do you feel it could change in the future? Do you have a sense that it might somehow change?
I'm 45 years old. I don't think so.
Why are you a plaintiff in this case?
Because I want to marry Sandy. I want to have a stable and secure relationship with her that we can include our children in. And I want discrimination we're feeling from Proposition 8 to end and for a more positive and joyful part of our lives to begin.
What does the institution of marriage mean to you? I mean, why do you want that?
Well, I've never really let myself want it until now. Mm-hmm. Growing up a lesbian, you don't let yourself want it because everybody tells you you're never going to have it. So in some ways, it's hard for me to grasp what it would even mean. I do see other people who are married, and I think that that's what it looks like, that you're honored and respected by your family. Your children know what your relationship is, and when you leave your home and you go to work or you go out into the world, people know what your relationship means. And so then everybody can, in a sense, join in supporting your relationship, which at this point I can only observe as an outsider. I don't have any firsthand experience with what that must be like.